Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome to a new reaction that I'm doing. So today I'm going to be reacting to something from JaruJaruJ, which I've been getting a fair number of requests to react to stuff of theirs. Now the only problem with that is when I go into their videos, there's a lot of stuff, and a fair number of the more exciting looking ones are over an hour long. So I didn't want to kind of, make that sort of time commitment for a first, not like a first reaction, but like a first time viewing of somebody's content. But after a little searching, I found this. Deltarune, Kris is Des, Holidays, Angels, and More. Well, that's certainly a theory. So yeah, I have no idea where this is going to go or how it's possibly going to work out, because last I checked, Des was the older sister of Noelle, who was in fact a deer monster, and Kris was a human. And we even get like talk when, if I remember correctly, when Noelle and Kris are talking in chapter 2, or when Noelle's talking to Kris in chapter 2, that they apparently hung out when they were kids, and Kris had apparently met Des at one point, or maybe a couple times, as a little kid. So again, I have no idea how this is going to work out, but yeah, I might as well get this started, because I literally have no idea where this is going to go. So yeah, of course, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video link to my Let's Play of the day. And yeah, if you have any suggestions for stuff for me to react to in the future, of course, you can leave them in the comment section below, or you can go into my Discord server and, find the actual Discord channel to link me stuff, like, through videos. Helps keep things a little neater. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing actually started then, shall we?
Hello, my name is Jaru. Today, I'm talking about Deltarune. There will be major spoilers for both Deltarune and Undertale, so please play them both before watching this. Today, we're talking about Des Holiday, because apparently it's the hot topic of the season. Lots of my fellow Deltarune YouTubers have been tackling the mystery of Des, so now it's my turn. As you likely guessed from the thumbnail, I have quite the whopper of a theory prepared, and it's almost certainly going to surprise you. Without further ado, if you enjoyed this video, consider supporting me on Patreon, and let's dive in to the mystery of why Kris is Des. First, some context.
Okay, it's such
Des
a weird,
Holiday,
so weird.
December Holiday, is the mysterious older sister of Noelle, and is apparently missing. More and more information has been revealed, suggesting something strange has happened to her, with Noelle spending years searching for Des using shady online programs, and with several sections of the Spamton ARG hinting at the idea that we as a community need to figure out what's happened to her. This guitar on Toby's website plays a version of Noelle's theme, and this theme is called Find Her, which is a pretty clear call to action. However, we can't just dive straight into the deep, dark depths of my mad theory, as you first need a cursory knowledge of more normal Deltarune theories to even begin to understand what the heck I'm ranting about.
Yeah, I would say I'm very much need like some help on this one. I'm fairly open-minded when it comes to like weird theories, but even this is a little out there even for me.
For starters, there were two things that caused all these awesome YouTubers to make a surge of videos about
Dork made one.
Des.
I'm gonna have to look at that.
First was the Spamton sweepstakes, which we've already discussed at length on this channel.
And I've heard of those. I've never actually seen them. They're weird. The release
of a music video written by Toby Fox called Skies Forever Blue, which many members of the community are theorizing is actually a massive hint about the true fate of Des. I'll go ahead and give a
Really?
quick summary
What?
of the plot of this video. Once upon a time, there was a video game, and in that game was the main hero character, who was controlled by the player, and the main female character, who was the primary companion and love interest of that game. Over time, this girl falls in love, not only with the hero, but also with the player. However, before she can confess her love, the game ends and the credits roll. But the girl refuses to accept this outcome. She begins resetting the game over and over, and on each new playthrough, she gets closer and closer to confessing her feelings to the hero, only for her to fail every time. Eventually, her meddling with the game's code causes reality itself to begin breaking apart, and in her final leap to the hero, she fails once again, and begins tumbling down into the darkness, lost forevermore. Now, that's...
Okay, so I know I may be taking the music video a little literally there, but are you suggesting that Des may have fallen in love with not Kris, I'd imagine, but with us, the people controlling Kris, and as a result of like breaking things and causing stuff to reset a number of times, caused the game to reset without her in it? Actually, does that mean she kind of like gastered herself? I mean, I'm definitely gonna have to see what more he has to say, but still, I mean, granted, he literally hasn't said anything about the actual theory yet, but that would be weird if that's where they're going with this.
It's a cute little tragic story, but what does it have to do with Deltarune? Well, there's a lot of tiny details that seem to be hinting that this story is tied to Deltarune in some way. I won't cover all of the details here, as other theorists have already covered this topic in depth, but the gist of it is this. The save select screen is just like Deltarune's. The girl begins breaking the game in a method that is very reminiscent of the way Noelle breaks her games, and Noelle's favorite game series is Dragon Blazers, and given that the hero and the girl fight a skeletal dragon at the end, it's believed that this whole music video is actually about the Dragon Blazers video game. Throw in the fact that we see this guitar in the background, which is an instrument associated with Des, and the fact that this girl loses her white and pink ribbon when she falls into the darkness, which is eerily similar to another ribbon that Kris finds in the Dark World, and which Noelle says looks familiar and nostalgic, and we've got quite a bit of grounds to believe that the story of this girl is actually a metaphorical reimagining of the story of December. And
okay, so it seems... that is where they're going with this. Okay!
And if you really aren't sold that this is meant to be related to Deltarune, Toby even made a special web page for this video simply labeled Girl. And when you scroll down the page, you see all these credits, then you see the boy looking over the cliff, and then when you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you find the girl looking up from the darkness. This is far too similar to the Spampton Sweepstakes ARG for me to believe that this is just some random thing Toby Fox did for no reason.
Okay, so what I'm learning from this is I'm gonna have to either watch the Spampton Sweepstakes or watch somebody's theory or dissection of them, because I did not see it, so I'm a bit lost here.
And if it weren't meant to be viewed as Deltarune lore, then I imagine Toby would have said something about it. But wait, it goes a little bit deeper. You see, in addition to theorizing that this video is about Des, people are also theorizing that Des is actually the character trapped in the code of Deltarune. For those who aren't aware, hidden in Deltarune's code is this line of text, which depicts a person lost in the dark calling out for help. And in Chapter 2, more text was added, which has this person noting how quiet it is there and how they sometimes hear scratching. As such, this led people to believe that there was some character trapped in the code, and that this character may also be Des. Now, to be clear, the idea that Des is the one trapped in the code has been bouncing around in the community for quite some time, with many theorists discussing the possibility long before Skies Forever Blue was released. We even discussed the idea in the Deltacast, if I recall correctly. If anything, this music video just added fuel to the fire for this theory. However, despite all this budding interest in Des from the community, for a long time, I had no desire to make a theory about her. If you've seen my other videos, you'll know I'm mostly a fan of making theories that focus on the narrative and themes of Deltarune. And while Des is a mysterious
very long
character,
theories, yeah.
I couldn't see how her story might play into the overarching narrative of Deltarune, and thus she just didn't interest me. Or rather, that was the case until now. With the release of Skies Forever Blue, I've been given precisely the information I needed to figure out a way for December's story to contribute to Deltarune's overarching theme in a way that is unique, intriguing, and compelling. This Des theory also fits extremely nicely with the other theories I've made, while also being a theory that none of you are expecting.
No,
you see,
you'd think.
Before I released this video, viewers familiar with my content took one look at this thumbnail and thought, oh man, Wacky Jaru's got another theory about Kris. I bet he's going to say that Kris absorbed Des's soul, just like he said happened to Azriel in his other theory. Oh, Jaru, how many people is Kris going to be possessed by at this rate? Is Kara and Gaster in there too? Ha ha ha.
Oh god, so this...
Oh my dear viewers, did you really think I'd put the plot twist right there in the thumbnail? Give me a little credit here. I don't think Kris absorbed Des's soul. What good would that do in propelling Deltarune's main theme? No, when I say Kris is Des, I mean that in a much more metaphysical way. When I first watched this video, something immediately stood out to me. The story of this girl is all about being trapped in a cycle in which you are desperately trying to achieve a happily ever after, only for your happiness to be torn away from you at the very end. No matter what changes she makes, no matter how hard she tried, her choices just didn't matter, and her world is inevitably reset. Doesn't this all sound familiar?
Kind of sounds like Undertale.
This story, this terrible, tragic fairy tale is literally the theory that I presented in this video. This theory held that the Deltarune reality has been trapped in a time loop by a higher power known as the Angel, and that this angel is destined to reset the timeline whenever the roaring comes to pass. This entity took away the world's magic and hid that magic in another dimension, which became known as the Dark World. And it is only within this dark world that magic can still be used. Furthermore, since the angel has power over reality in the light world, Kris is only able to use the power of saving and loading in the dark world, as that place is just barely outside the control of the angel.
Okay. I mean, the more I watch of this, the more I realize I might have to watch other videos as well, because this is getting out of hand really quickly.
As a result, the fate of Kris and the fate of the player of this game is to desperately reset Deltarune over and over in our vain attempt to reach a happy ending that is forever beyond our reach. Our choices don't matter, and the world is inevitably doomed to fall to darkness, just like the girl in Skies Forever Blue. It was, of course,
okay,
quite vindicating to see my theory even further hinted at by Toby Fox in this way. But there was something more to discover here. This quaint little music video actually holds the key to unlocking the door, one of the oldest mysteries in this fandom. A mystery that dates back to Undertale. In one of my recent videos, I discussed what I believe was the fate of Sans, but more importantly, I discussed the reason behind monsters bleeding. Namely, I concluded that after the angel took away magic, it had to give monsters physical bodies to replace their magical bodies. A side effect of this was that monsters can now bleed, but a more important side effect was that monsters could now wield determination without melting, which...
Yeah, but... Actually, okay, wait a second. I'm sorry, I'm connecting some dots here. So, I guess I mean, in Undertale, we see all that stuff happen, but Sans is the only one we don't see, disintegrate on screen. And of course, there is the theory, too, that Sans and Papyrus are actually from Deltarune first, which is why in Undertale people just say they just one day appeared. Okay. I mean, continue on, good sir. Let's see where this goes.
Which was the main weakness of Undertale-style monsters. As a result, Deltarune monsters are able to wield determination to open dark fountains, as we see nearly accomplished in Chapter 2. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. If monsters can now wield determination, then what's stopping them from wielding a great deal of determination? What's stopping them from gaining the legendary power wielded by the heroes and villains of Undertale? Skies Forever Blue isn't just revealing the fate of December Holiday. Skies Forever Blue is revealing the natural conclusion of a concept initiated by Flowey all those years ago. We've seen what it's like when a human wields power over time. We've seen what it's like when an unnatural abomination wields power over time. There was
now
only
we get to
one
see
type
what happens when a monster wields the power over time. Okay.
of creature left who had yet to wield this power. We had yet to see what it's like when a monster wields it. We had yet to see a monster wield the power to save and load. Until now. Only one person can wield power over the timeline at once. Flowey ruled the Undertale timeline until he was supplanted by Frisk, who was then supplanted by Asriel. Similarly, Kris may be the current master of the Dark World timeline, but this wasn't always the case. Before there was Kris warping time and space, there was Des, the previous master of saving and loading. We even see what her save point looks like. Frisk's save point was yellow, Kris's was white, and December's is... I am very appreciative of my fellow theorists, as I would never have gotten this far without your stellar legwork. But there was one question that stuck with me during all this research. One question that nobody had quite given a satisfying answer for. You see, while clever folks have deduced that this music video is meant to show that December was the one to fall to darkness and become lost in the game's code, what these theorists haven't quite explained was how she met this fate. That is the question that I will be answering today. Now, before I share the story of December Holiday, I should preface that this will be quite different from how I told the story of Asriel in my Rouse video. My biggest mistake in that video was I got too specific with describing the possible scenario that led up to Asriel's death. In reality, that theory was actually rather simple. Rouse was a darkener made from Asriel's dust. Asriel died, and it's Kris's fault, and Kris was present when Asriel died, which allowed them to absorb his soul. That was the whole theory. But in my desire to weave this theory into a compelling story, I presented a possible scenario which could have led up to this event. That, however, was a mistake, as many people dismissed the theory outright because they didn't find that specific scenario I described as being believable, when in reality the scenario was completely irrelevant to the theory itself. The specifics of how and when Asriel died wasn't important. However, people didn't see it that way, so
of course they never do.
I'm going to avoid getting too specific with this theory. I'll still paint the story of Des in as engaging a way as I can, but I'll do so in very broad strokes, and then I'll allow you viewers at home to fill in the finer details. Once upon a time, there was a girl named December Holiday, aka Des. And this girl was very
nice,
determined.
bright work.
She was so determined, in fact, that she had gained access to an incredible power. However, she didn't realize she had this power until one day, through some unknown circumstances, when she fell into a dark world. In a manner quite similar to the way Frisk unlocked their ability, Des, upon falling into this new world, saw a pink star twinkling in the darkness. She touched it and discovered that she had the incredible power to save and load. What happened next, and what adventures she may or may not have experienced, is currently unknown. But using the plot of Skies Forever Blue, we can conclude that at some point in time, Des suffered a terrible loss. She lost someone she loved. Now, who she lost is unclear. Maybe, just like the girl in the music video, Des had a romantic interest. Maybe she had a thing for Asriel, and it was his death that she suffered. Maybe he even originally
So
died
this whole thing is still hinging on the fact that of this unseen theory, at least for me, that Asriel is dead. Okay, so that kind of throws a spanner in the works for me, at the very least.
Thing unrelated to Kris, which would be especially tragic, as it would imply Asriel is doomed to die in every possible timeline. Or maybe it wasn't something so specific. Maybe Des lost everyone she loved when the roaring came to pass, and her timeline was reset. She still managed to remember this happening thanks to her unusual quantity of determination, just as Flowey could remember past timelines in Undertale, and thus she was able to recognize the horrible time loop her world was trapped in. Or maybe her tragedy was simply focused on a sick loved one who died of illness in the hospital. Whatever the case, be it a romantic interest, a family member, or her entire world, December suffered a terrible loss, and that loss motivated her to use her newfound powers to find a better outcome. Using her ability to save and load while in the dark world, Des began rewinding time over and over again as she searched for a way to get a better tomorrow, a way to change fate. However, no matter how much she tried, she could never prevent this tragedy from occurring. Even with her determination, her choices just didn't matter. But
yeah, okay, I guess that would work with Deltarune.
Eventually, Des came up with a new idea. She had learned of the power to create dark fountains. Anyone with determination could do it, but there was something she hadn't tried yet.
Creating a dark world in a dark world? Dark worldception?
When she created a dark fountain in the light world, it caused a dark world to form. But what would happen if someone like her were to attempt to create a dark fountain while inside a dark world? Or, to put it another way, what if it could get darker than dark? If she gained such incredible powers by entering the dark world, then maybe entering a dark world inside another dark world would grant her even greater powers. Or maybe some other line of logic led her to this plan. Maybe a certain someone whispered the idea into her ear. Whatever the specific scenario, Des set out to enact this plan. She would create a dark fountain inside a dark world and unlock the answer to the age-old question. What is darker yet darker? And unfortunately for Des, she found out. Succeeded. As she plunged her blade into the earth, a horrible tear was made in reality. She found herself plunged into a realm far darker than she could have possibly imagined. She couldn't see anything, and worst of all, she couldn't reach her save file. It seemed that wherever this place was, whatever dark recess of reality she had torn her way into, was beyond the realm of logic and physics. The rules of saving and loading.
Yeah, like, I mean, that saving and loading your save file is a part of physics. I love that. That's funny.
Termination did not apply here. She was trapped, and she was alone, except for the sound of scratching. And so, with the former master of this reality now trapped in the fringes of existence, a new master was christened. Kris Dreamer took on the mantle that Des left behind, and in doing so gained a terrible power and an even more terrible burden. They could control time itself, but in exchange, they now held the impossible task of confronting the problem that Des herself failed to solve. Kris would now go on to explore the dark world, go on adventures and learn terrible secrets, only to come face to face with a power they have no hope of conquering. In the end, just like Des before them, Kris will be forced to watch as their reality is sent hurtling back in time, all progress undone, all friendships shattered, and all choices rendered meaningless. That, my dear viewers, is why Kris is Des. They wield her power, they carry her burdens, and they share her fate.
Okay, yeah, so obviously didn't go where I thought it was going to go, but God, this is, again, I'm going to have to watch some of those other people's theories talking about this stuff, because this is, oh God, this is just, it comes out of nowhere.
To try and fail to break the cycle, only to be lost in darkness forevermore. Of course, this raises the question, what's next? What is the future of Des Holiday? Will she truly be trapped in this dark abyss forever? Or is there some chance of her being saved? Well, I have an answer for that as well.
Oh, do you?
See, once you connect the dots, confirming that Dragon Blazers is meant to be symbolic of Des and the Holiday family in general, you start to notice foreshadowing that we hadn't recognized before. Dragon Blazers 3 is the game that features the Ice Palace, which is also the place featured in the Spampton ARG. Everything about the story Noelle tells surrounding this place, about her trying to find a glitchy door, sounds eerily similar to the way the Mystery Man's door is hidden in Undertale. It seems like Noelle, whether she realizes it or not, is looking for a way to reach the dark abyss at the edge of reality where December has been trapped. But that's not all. Noelle has yet to achieve this goal, and appropriately, Rudy mentions in Chapter 1 that she has yet to beat Dragon Blazers 3. He then suggests she bring the game up to the hospital, which she does in Chapter 2. They then mention a couple key details here. They fight a silver drake, which is likely symbolic of a foe we will face in later chapters. But more noticeably, when Rudy suggests using fire shock, Noelle responds that she can't because the mage left the party. This seems to imply that our mage, Ralsei, will not only learn fire magic, a skill he likely inherited from the Dreamer family, but also that he will leave our party for some reason in future chapters. Why he would do this, only time will tell. However, the most important foreshadowing regarding Des came not from Dragon Blazers 3, but from Dragon Blazers 2, which Susie brings up in this scene here when she says, "It's like when your sister gets cursed in Dragon Blazers 2. Even if her stats suck, she's still your party member." A sister getting cursed and losing access to the powers she once wielded? Why, I dare say that sounds familiar. With this information, I think we can use the Dragon Blazers trilogy to paint a picture of the full story of December. I believe Skies Forever Blue is meant to represent the original Dragon Blazers, hence why it's on this very retro handheld console, and also why none of the events in this game line up with any of the events described in the other Dragon Blazers games. As such, this game represents the rise and fall of December back before the events of Deltarune. Next is Dragon Blazers 2, which details how, in a future chapter, we will somehow find a way to interact with Des, and she will even contribute to our mission in the Dark World. She's been cursed to lose her powers and be locked in this dark abyss, but that doesn't mean she can't find a way to communicate with those in the regular Dark World. She may even be able to join our party at some point, although, thanks to the mental strain of being stranded in the darkness for so long, she will be a lot weaker than she was before.
You know, this has me thinking. In the previous chapters of Deltarune, there's always been like that secret boss, whether it was Spamton in chapter 2 or Jevil in chapter 1, and both of them are like basically nuts because of like somebody interacting with them and like giving them unnatural knowledge, or at least, you know, knowledge that's not natural in their world. In like Jevil's case, he found out that most likely his world is fake, and that with him being the only one that actually knows it, he's the only one that's free. And with Spamton, he used it to get ahead in life, but then when that information stopped coming, he like basically collapsed and like lost everything. So I'm almost thinking, could Des in fact be potentially the secret boss that we have to fight in a future chapter, whether it's chapter 3, 4, you know, because that could be one of those things where unless you go out exploring, you miss like this very vital piece of story. And the reason you have to fight her is either to help break her out of something, or again, because she's been in this theoretical like even deeper level of the Dark World for so long that she's basically gone, you know, nuts herself. Given that, you know, as I said before, the current pattern is that all of the secret bosses are literally insane, or at the very least very heavily damaged,
and will no longer have the determination necessary to use her former powers. And lastly comes the final act of Des's story, Dragon Blazers 3. It is in this game where Noelle will find the hidden door in the Ice Palace and unlock a path to the Dark Abyss, and in doing so she will finally save her sister from damnation. Or, at the very least, Noelle will try to do this.
Yeah,
Given
that's the
dark
important part
nature
in all
of
this.
Game, I wouldn't be shocked if it ultimately proves impossible to rescue Des.
Yeah.
But then again, if I were writing this game, I would allow the player to rescue December after going on a very difficult and glitchy quest, giving the Holiday family a beautiful reunion.
I love the concept of, like, it's been years and Des is like a literal midget.
that tugs at your heartstrings would be really fun and engaging to see. It would also make the roaring and the inevitable timeline reset that sends Des hurtling back into the dark abyss all the more tragic. Even when you rescue her, darkness will always be the fate of December Holiday. That's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching.
Okay, that definitely didn't know where... Yeah, so that definitely didn't go where I thought it was going to go. But yeah, I mean, again, I went into this not knowing what I was going to be getting into, but this is so weird. I mean, it could be, like, very cool if that actually turns out to be what happened. Again, I'm probably going to have to look at some of Jaru's older theories, because I was kind of operating there on, half of the information. And there's a sequel to this video that I think there is, that's called Ness is Des is Ness, as in, Ness from Earthbound. So yeah, I don't know where I'm going to continue things on with things when it comes to Jaru's videos, but it seems like I have a bit of a journey ahead of me, and yeah, it's definitely going to be a wild ride. So yeah, of course, as always, the original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And with all that out of the way, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.